We have spent 6 episodes talking about the people who flew. Today, we're talking about the people who stayed. Because I think the public image of the Apollo program is extremely astronaut-centric. The 7 Mercury astronauts, the Gemini crews, the 12 moonwalkers. And I want to spend an episode pushing back on that framing. Because the astronauts were the most visible part of something that was actually much larger, much more distributed, much more human than photographs suggest.
What was that for?
Because you're about to...
I was turning down my volume.
My bad.
At its peak, the Apollo program employed approximately 400,000 people. That's the population of a medium-sized American city. Everyone working in some capacity on putting humans on the moon. The astronauts were 12 people. The visible mission control staff numbered in the dozens. The 400,000 are mostly a number.
Today, we're giving some of them names.
Welcome to Time Tellers. I'm Dan.
And I'm Renee, the people behind the missions.
The Mission Control Center at the Johnson Space Center in Houston, Building 30, became operational in 1965. It's a tiered room. The flight controllers sit at consoles on the main floor facing a large display screen on the front wall. The flight director sits at the back of the main floor. Behind glass at the back of the room is the Royal Gallery, VIPs, observers, and management.
Mm-hmm.
What made Mission Control extraordinary was not the room or the technology, though. The technology was remarkable for the era, but the culture that was built inside it. A culture of radical accountability, extreme preparation, and what the controllers called working the problem. Not assigning blame, not panicking, working the problem.
Who built that culture?
People.
Yes. As all cultures are built.
There's some that are from aliens. But this case, multiple people over time. But the defining figure is Eugene Francis Kranz. Gene Kranz, born in Toledo, Ohio in 1933. Served in the Air Force as a fighter pilot, joined NASA in 1960. By the mid-1960s, he was one of the primary flight directors. The person who sits at the back of Mission Control and holds final authority over every decision made in that room during a mission. The white vest is real, by the way. His wife, Marta, sewed him a new vest for every mission. Always white, always handmade. It became his signature. He wore it because he thought it looked professional and distinguished him from the controllers he was directing. It worked. You can always find Gene Kranz in a photograph of Mission Control.
There's something I love about that. His wife made him a new vest for every mission, for years. It's such a human detail in the middle of all this enormously inhuman technology.
Marta Kranz made Gene Kranz's vests. Gene Kranz kept people from dying in space. Marriage is a team sport.
That's going on a plaque somewhere. Okay, who else? Walk me through some of the specific people who we haven't talked about yet.
I'm sure there's a Bob somewhere.
There's always a Bob. What about Bob? Bob's Burgers.
Are disgusting. That show never should have existed.
Still like it.
King of the Hill was better.
King of the Hill was good, but I'm a fan of Bob's Burgers.
You would be.
Mm-hmm. I'm basically Linda.
Let me give you a few portraits because I think individual stories communicate the scale of talent in that building better than any description can. John Aaron, born in 1943, Altus, Oklahoma, son of a farmer, got his degree from Southwestern Oklahoma State University, not MIT, not Caltech, a regional university most people haven't heard of. Joined NASA in 1964. By 1967, he was a flight controller specializing in the electrical power systems of the spacecraft.
Ooh.
He is the man who identified the SCE to auxiliary fix during Apollo 12's lightning strike. He is also, and this doesn't get talked about enough, the man who wrote the power-up procedure that Swigert used to bring the command module back to life on Apollo 13. That procedure, which Swigert and Hayes executed in under 2 hours using power levels that had never been tested, was designed by John Aaron and a small team working through the night.
The same person saved Apollo 12 and Apollo 13.
In different ways, yes. On 12, he recognized an obscure alarm pattern from a ground test he'd looked up a year before. On 13, he designed the power-up procedure that was the final gate between the crew and death. He was 26 during Apollo 12. He was 27 during Apollo 13.
I keep saying I've been underestimating 26-year-olds. I really haven't, but I guess in the Apollo series I have been.
Jack Garman, born in 1945, came to NASA from the University of Michigan. Software engineer for Mission Control's back room during Apollo, the man who cleared the 1202 alarm during Apollo 11's landing with 7 minutes to go. Here's the thing about the 1202 clearance. It wasn't a snap judgment. Garman had stayed late the night before the landing entirely of his own initiative, not required, and compiled a handwritten list of every computer alarm that might appear during descent, with a note on each one, go or no go. He consulted with his supervisor, he thought about edge cases, and he wrote the list, which was sitting next to him on the console when the alarm appeared.
Lists are good, sometimes.
His preparation was so thorough that what looked like an instant decision, executive overflow or go, was actually the result of hours of prior work. The decision took seconds, the preparation took days.
Don Iles. We mentioned him in Apollo 14 episode. MIT, 27 years old, 2 hours software patch.
Don Iles is perhaps the most important anonymous figure in the entire program. He wrote significant portions of the lunar module's guidance software. He understood that code at a level that almost nobody else did. When the abort switch on Apollo 14 started malfunctioning, the solution required someone who could understand exactly how the computer was interpreting the bad signal and write a workaround at the machine code level in less than 2 hours under pressure while the astronauts were preparing for landing. He wrote the patch, Schmidt and Shepard typed it in, they landed. Without that patch, Shepard, who had waited 9 years, would have had to go home without landing.
That would have been a major bummer.
Yeah.
Frances Northcutt. Tell me about her.
Frances Poppy Northcutt, first woman to work in mission control in a technical role. She joined TRW, a contractor that worked on trajectory calculations for NASA, in 1965. She worked as a computress, a human computer, before being moved to a technical engineering role. By Apollo 8, she was working trajectory calculations for the translunar injection and return trajectories.
That sounds like a lot of words I don't understand. Just kidding. Some of them I understand.
She worked the Apollo 8 mission, the first crewed circumlunar flight, and Apollo 13, where her trajectory work was part of the return planning. She was sitting in mission control for both missions.
And nobody knew because she wasn't one of the astronauts, of course.
And because she was a woman.
Yes.
In 1968 and 1970, and mission control was extremely male.
Yes.
She later became a lawyer specializing in domestic violence law and women's rights. She said that the skills she learned in mission control, precision working under pressure, not making assumptions, served her in both careers.
Good for her. I want to zoom out from the specific individuals and talk about the 400,000, because I think even listing impressive individual stories can inadvertently recreate the same problem. A handful of names representing a vast, invisible force. Workforce, that is.
I didn't hear your zoom out sound.
Swoop. The spacesuits, the Apollo spacesuits, which are possibly the most complex garments ever made, were hand-sewn by workers at the International Latex Corporation plant in Dover, Delaware. ILC Dover, whose primary commercial business was bras and girdle. The seamstresses had to meet tolerances measured in fractions of an inch. A badly sewn seam could mean a suit that failed at pressure and killed an astronaut. They worked with that knowledge every day.
There's a woman named Ellie Foraker who worked at ILC Dover during Apollo. She's talked about the responsibility she felt, that she was sewing something that had to be perfect, not almost perfect, not good enough, perfect. She and her colleagues inspected each other's work. They knew what was at stake.
The Saturn V rocket that had 3 million individual parts, every single one of them had to work. They weren't made in one place. They were manufactured by hundreds of different contractors across the country, shipped to NASA's facilities for assembly, tested, retested, integrated. The failure of any single component in a critical system could end a mission or kill a crew. And the people who made those parts, the machinists, the welders, and quality control inspectors and truck drivers who moved the components, most of them never saw the launches. Most of them never got the phone call that said, "You did it." Most of them watched on television with the rest of the country.
There's a phenomenon that historians of the program have noted. The people who worked on Apollo describe it decades later as the defining experience of their professional lives. People who welded components, who ran tests, who did data entry. The program gave people a sense of purpose and meaning that's hard to replicate. They were part of something genuinely historic, even if their individual contribution was invisible.
I think about the seamstresses in Dover sometimes.
Hmm.
Sewing suits in a factory in Delaware that would end up on the surface of the moon. Did they know when they were doing it? Did it feel like history?
Many of them have said yes, that they understood viscerally, even without the technical knowledge of exactly how, that when they were making mattered, that it had to be right.
It had to be right might be the unofficial model of the whole program.
I've been wanting to get to this for the entire series, even though we did an entire episode on this. I think this is the right episode for it. We need to talk about Wernher von Braun, because he is the central engineering genius of the Saturn V, the rocket that made it all possible, and he is also one of the most morally compromised figures in American scientific history. And you cannot understand the Apollo program honestly without holding both of these things.
Let's lay it out for everyone.
Von Braun was born in Germany in 1912. I think you can figure out the rest from there.
Pretty much, yeah.
He was obsessed with rockets from his childhood. He was a member of the Society for Space Travel, a German amateur rocketry club. Before he was 20, he had a gift for engineering and an extraordinary ability to attract talent and resources. By his late 20s, he was the technical director of the German military rocket program.
What is 1912 plus 20?
I don't know, you're the teacher.
I'm asking the audience to do that math. What was going on in the 1930s in Germany? Connection made. Let's keep going.
Great music. Maybe. The V-2 rocket, the first operational ballistic missile, the first human-made object to reach space, was his. He designed it, he oversaw its development. It was a weapon of terror. Over 3,000 V-2s were fired at civilian targets, London, Antwerp, other cities. They killed approximately 9,000 civilians and military personnel.
Not to mention the people who built them. But you'll talk about that in like a minute.
Yeah. Von Braun was a member of the Nazi Party. Shocker. He joined in 1937. He was also a member of the SS.
Not just a regular... Is there such a thing as a
Not
regular
a Nazi,
Nazi?
a super Nazi.
Yeah.
Which he joined in 1940. He held the SS rank of some stupid German word.
Sturmenführer.
Oh, okay. I'm glad you got it. Roughly equivalent to major. He wore the uniform.
And the factories that helped build, or help is the incorrect word there, were forced to build these V-2 rockets. Let's talk about those.
Okay. And the factories, the V-2 was manufactured at an underground facility called Mittelwerk in the Harz Mountains of Germany. The labor force was drawn primarily from the Dora concentration camp, which was established specifically to supply workers for Mittelwerk. The workers were prisoners, Jewish people, Soviet POWs, political prisoners, forced laborers from across occupied Europe. They were starved, they worked in brutal conditions, they were executed for sabotage, real or alleged. Approximately 20,000 people died producing the V-2 rockets, more than were killed by the V-2s themselves. Von Braun visited Mittelwerk at least once, possibly more. His SS rank would have given him authority over conditions at the facility that he chose not to exercise. He later said in various formulations that he knew the conditions were bad and that he could do nothing about them, that the alternative was losing control of the rocket program entirely. His biographers have found this explanation incomplete.
You would think he would want the prisoners to be, quote-unquote, better taken care of, so they would do better work on his rockets. But, yeah, he was a Nazi. So, his explanation was incomplete, and that's putting it nicely.
To put it gently, he was brought to America under Operation Paperclip. Make sure you check out our episode on that one.
It's a good one.
Yeah. It's called Operation Paperclip.
Shocker.
A classified program, well, it's almost as much of a shocker as Apollo 11, Apollo 12, Apollo 15.
We're getting real creative with these titles, guys.
It was a classified program that specifically recruited German scientists and technicians whose expertise was deemed valuable to the United States. The program included instructions to review and, if necessary, modify the records of recruited scientists to remove or classify information that would prevent them from entering the country or working with the government. Von Braun's Nazi Party and SS membership were known to the people running Operation Paperclip. The decision was made to bring him anyway.
I mean, the alternative was, I guess, allowing the Russians to get him, which this is the Cold War now, and that was in no way, shape, or form could we allow that.
So
I'm not saying it was the right decision. I'm saying that's what it was.
He became the director of NASA's Marshall Space Flight Center in Huntsville, Alabama. He became a public figure. He wrote articles for Colliers Magazine. He worked with Walt Disney on a series of space exploration films for television in the 1950s. He was celebrated as a visionary, a hero of the space age. His personal history was not discussed publicly. It was, in various institutional ways, actively obscured. Black Sharpie.
Yes. Yeah. And he built the Saturn V.
He built the Saturn V, the rocket that took 12 people to the moon and made everything we've talked about in the series possible. Was designed by a man who had spent World War II as a member of the SS overseeing a rocket program built on the bones of 20,000 concentration camp prisoners.
What do we do with that? I genuinely don't know what to do with that. It is one of those moments in history where it's one of those the ends justify the means. I'm not sure we definitely would not have been better off if the Russians had got him. I don't know. It's just one of those situations where I'm glad I wasn't the one making decisions back then. And I don't think his record should have been expunged like it was. We could have held him somewhere and, he pretty much lived freely after a while and did whatever he wanted. Just crazy.
Just pretty much got away with everything.
Yep. Because he was smart.
I don't think we're supposed to do anything with it in the sense of resolving it. I think the honest thing is to hold it. To say, this is what the Saturn V is. This is what it came from. This is the full history of it. The engineering genius is real. The rocket is real. The moon landings are real. And the 20,000 dead at Middlework are real. And a decision by the United States government to bring von Braun here, to clear his record, to make him a celebrity, that decision has consequences that run through the center of everything we celebrate about Apollo.
And it's part of not censoring history, not trying to change it. It is what it is. And
slavery
good, bad,
happened.
and ugly. It's not a reason to celebrate it, but it is a reason to know what we're celebrating.
Exactly, and von Braun himself, to whatever extent this is relevant, spent the last decade of his life in declining health, diagnosed with kidney cancer in 1973, and died in 1977. It's the year Star Wars came out. What if he got to see Star Wars?
Interesting, I don't know.
Some accounts suggest he had periods of genuine reflection on his wartime role. Others suggest he never fully confronted it. I don't think we can know. He died 8 years after the moon landing.
He watched 12 men walk on the moon using his rocket and then died 8 years later. That's its own kind of strange ending.
History doesn't give clean endings.
Mission Control, Francis Northcutt, doing trajectory calculations in a room full of men who had never seen a woman do this before. Jack Garman staying late to make a handwritten list. John Aaron remembering an obscure switch setting from a ground test a year earlier. The seamstresses in Dover who sewed suits that had to be perfect. The 400,000 whose names we don't know. Wernher von Braun who built the rocket that took all of them there. The Apollo program is the story of what human beings can do when they choose to try. It is also the story of who gets credit and who doesn't, who gets celebrated and who gets forgotten. Also check out our Hidden Figures episode. What we choose to remember and what we choose not to. Both of those things are the full story, the whole story, the one that respects everyone in it.
Final episode next week. Why did we stop? What did we get from going? Is there any chance to go back?
Is that our final episode, though? Is it really?
I mean, it would be the last one of the Apollos.
Fair. I have some thoughts.
That's scary.
Should be.
Renee has many thoughts. Not all of them good. In fact, about 1% are.
No comment.
No comment is still a comment.
Keep asking questions and keep looking up. And make sure you keep listening to us time tellers on whatever app you listen to podcasts on. Thank you. Bye.